10, 9.
You want answers. I want the truth.
Get ready for two guys who can't handle the truth.
I want the truth. You can't handle the truth.
But we can. Dave Palumbo, Chris Aceto. RXMuscle.com presents Heavy Muscle Radio. Watch out!
Welcome to another episode of Heavy Muscle Radio. I'm Dave Palumbo, and I'm joined, as always, by the technician Chris Aceto on this January 1st, 2018 afternoon. Happy New Year, Chris, and I missed your birthday. Happy birthday. It was a few days ago, so it was a
38 years young.
Yeah, 38, exactly. Don't we all wish? Well, New Year's is here, but this is technically, we're actually recording this on the 31st, so it's really not New Year's yet. So it's still technically our year in the end wrap up of what went on. And man, the year ended on a doozy. It's kind of become social media guys versus, I guess you could say the old guard, they'd like to call us. But I've been in this war. I don't even know if it's a war, really. It's really a ridiculousness of dissension with the social media guys recently. First starting with Vegan Gains, who was just obviously trying to get some publicity out of me, and him and I went back and forth. Now Louie Marco and I have this like passive aggressive relationship. I don't know why, but the problem is that he has very thin skin, even though he doesn't want to admit it. And we did this end of the year Iron Debate show, as you know. It was you, John, myself, and Greg Valentino, and we had some fun. And one of the topics was about Louie and the Bonac situation. And Louie didn't like the fact that, first of all, he wasn't asked to be on there. Now, in defense of that decision, first of all, I didn't know that anyone was going to even bash Louie. So if I thought that was going to be the case, I would have asked him to be on. Not that he would have come on anyway necessarily, but I would have asked him. And he didn't like the fact that Valentino was cursing, and because he's not proper. And so I decided to. So he made this video bashing me, and then he put out another video of me of contradicting myself. And these guys think it bothers me. It doesn't. I don't even give a shit about this stuff. But I contacted him as a man, and I said, "Look, Louie, you want to come on the show? Let's talk it out." He's like, "Well, you come on my show because I already came on yours." So I said, "Fine." So he wanted to record it immediately. So I recorded it like 12 midnight last night, and I answered all his questions. And I challenged all his, accusations. And, if you want to watch it, it's on his channel. And I thought that I answered all the questions, adequately and to my satisfaction. And I think that, people are going to believe and side with whoever they want. I believe Phil Heath deserved to win the Olympia. I know you did too. I think Louie believes that if there's any abdominal distension whatsoever, there should be automatic disqualification. Which is never going to happen, and it's ridiculous. And, I try to explain to him that, bodybuilders that carry a lot of mass will have thick abdominal musculature, and sometimes they don't control it, and that could be penalized, and sometimes they do control it, and then no one knows about it. So, there was a lot of debate.
Sounds like Trump. If you're not nice to me, you're disqualified.
I think what's happening,
if you're not nice, I'm going to have to disqualify myself from the debates. I actually defended, I thought, to some degree of that panel, Louie Marco, in the sense that when it came to Bonac, I said, people who are professional bodybuilders, need thicker skin because we are in a era in which professional bodybuilders are extremely accessible via Instagram, via Facebook, all forms of social media, and you're going to get picked on. Coleman would have been picked on for something. Jay would have been picked on. Jay was picked on. They called him the fridge. Yeah. You didn't see Jay having a nervous breakdown because he's different.
Well, he doesn't. He's like us. He doesn't give a crap about what people think about him.
He doesn't give a crap. And I said, Phil Heath, to his credit, besides his physique, and I said I have a vested interest in seeing him lose. And I mean that. I'd love to be able to criticize the hell out of his physique. He's damn impressive on stage. That is a fact. That's not my opinion. But he's the brunt of social media cowboys who say that he's narrow. He's he doesn't have this. He doesn't have any quads. When he locks out his quads, there's no striations. Where are the striations in his quads? He doesn't have an absent eye shot. He was better 5 years ago. I mean, the criticism is never ending. Like he's a piece of crap.
Here's my question.
The fact is, when it comes to Phil Heath, he's not. He's still impressive, and he dominates. He got straight ones in the Olympia this year.
Right.
So either there's a conspiracy by, Steve Weinberg and the gang that or they're pretty good judges and other people see it differently.
Yeah. Well, here's Louie Marco believes that his followers, which are the fans on YouTube, okay, are more relevant than what the judges think. In other words, he believes that the people are speaking, and because he brought this to light, that the fans agree with him that Phil shouldn't be Mr. Olympia. In other words, fuck the judges. Judges don't know what they're doing.
Well,
this is what we. This is what we. No, this is what we, the younger. They think that we're the old generation, even though he's only like 5 years younger than me. Him and the younger generation believe this, and they believe that. Well, this is what he thinks. This is because he has a.
Well, you know what the problem is.
He's got a little bit of an ego here with regard to
let me tell you what the problem is with that analysis. If you go to some guy who got 5th, pick a pro show this year.
The problem is it's not American Idol, Chris.
Dave,
it's not American Idol where you vote on the telephone and you text in your fucking votes who you like the best. It's not American Idol. It's just like Olympic skating and gymnastics where they score them is not judged by the people at home watching on their TV sets. It's judged by the judges who have experience who are sitting there. That's the bottom line.
Dave, it's social media. The guy who got 5th at the Nationals, who looked great, let's say in the heavies, the light heavies, the supers, he could post up pictures of himself on his Instagram feed. If you go through the 300
yeah, but let's assume everyone's watching the same HD feed. I understand what he's saying. They're all watching the feed.
But the point is, you go through this guy who gets 5th, whoever that is, a 5th in a pro show, a 3rd in a pro show, and 9 out of 10 people on his own feed say, "You were robbed. You were crazy, dude.
Of course.
You really brought it, dude. Should have won." And it's called social media. People say anything, and you as the 5th place guy can't go on your own social media page and say, "Look it, everyone had me winning." Well, funny, the 7 judges, no one had you winning. You didn't have anything higher than a 4th place vote.
Right.
So just because, quote, people on my social media said I should win, or Louie Marco says, my fans think that, Phil should be disqualified, means nothing.
Yeah. No,
I mean, David, it means as much as, I always do this. How many shows have I been to with really good bodybuilders who I come out of the venue and I'm mad and I say, "Dave, where'd you have him?" And you say, "Chris, I had him first too." And I said, Dave, even I knew it, Dave. You confirm what I think. And then you tell me, "But Chris, you got to realize it could have gone either way, right? You do realize that." And I say, yeah, you're right, Dave. And then I talk to a judge who says, "Chris, come on. You know the guy you're helping, so-and-so. From the side tricep and side chest, those are shots he's getting smoked in. You're looking at the front double and back double, and he's holding his own or even winning a couple of those shots. But on the side shots, he's getting killed." And I say, "You're right. You're right."
The bottom line is if the pro bodybuilders don't like the social media guys critiquing them, which they're going to do anyway, then don't give them any information. Don't pretend to be friends with these guys because you think that they're gonna have your back when it comes out when you get up on stage. Because the bottom line is that Louie Marco is going to say whatever is on his mind and whatever he believes, and that's fine. He's entitled to his opinion. I always say that. I've said everyone is entitled to opinion. That's why, seeing that he's a guy in social media that is entitled to opinion, why he would be offended by an iron debate where guys were giving their opinions about him just because they weren't favorable tells me that he has very thin skin. I said it to him a million times in the interview. He didn't agree with me. I said, "Of course you do, because if you didn't have thin skin, you wouldn't let it bother you." You say, I told him he says stuff about me all the time, and other people. I don't let it bother me. He's saying I'm the king of the bubble gut, and whatever the case may be. It doesn't affect me. I could be like, "Fuck you." What do I care? He can say whatever he wants. It doesn't have any bearing on my life. And obviously, it bothers him that people were saying things about him, whether true or not, doesn't matter. People can make up whatever they want. It should not bother him. Okay. He shouldn't be offended by me either, because if anything, I was defending him on the show because I knew the story with Bonac. But at the same time, I am running a media website where we have shows where people give discussions. Look, Jerry Springer, okay, would have Ku Klux Klan guys on. It doesn't mean that Jerry Springer, okay, is a racist and hates black people. It means that Jerry Springer runs a show where he's trying to have controversy on the show and different viewpoints. So, you know, that's where he's off. That's where he's off base, and it is what it is.
Well, the
funny thing is, I said to Louie, because Nick from the other channel was saying, you know, I'm not, because he had to throw his 2 cents in there too. He's like, you know, I'm not an expert by any means. I'm just a guy giving my opinion. I said, well, Louie, would you agree with that? Because I know you're friends with Nick. Would you agree with that statement? Is that who you are? Just a guy giving your opinion? He goes, yeah. I said, then. You know, and Nick also said, you know, bodybuilding's not on TV. I said, if it was on TV, Louie, who do you think the networks would hire to analyze the Olympia? You, Nick, or me? And I'm not saying I'm the greatest out there, but I'm saying, who would they pick? He's like, well, me. I said, I have more social media following. I said, do you really believe that? Do you believe you're more of an expert at analyzing bodybuilding than me, who's competed, who's been doing this for, 25 years? Do you really believe that? Well, I don't say I have more experience, but I have more following. I said, do you think the networks care about your following? They want someone who's going to analyze what's going on stage. And I think I have a couple better insights than you do into that. So for you to say discredit, Chris or my viewpoint on who should have won the Olympia and the judges, it just goes to show you're just saying what you want. And, that doesn't mean that's what was what the way it should have worked out.
I just find it hard to believe that people who attended this year's Olympia, wouldn't have, let's say, Phil winning. I mean, he was pretty, in person, he was pretty...
I would say if you polled people on the way out, 90% of them would say Phil deserved to win.
Yeah. So, there you go.
Yeah.
If there's, like I said, so there's either a judging conspiracy...
Mm-hmm. Which is not. Look, if anyone thought it was, if Ramy had come in shape, we might have been talking about Ramy as the next Mr. Olympia, or Ramy getting robbed if they let Phil win. But that wasn't the case. Ramy was not good at this Olympia. Oh, that's another thing Louie said. He said,
well, that's why
Louie said that he's responsible for getting you, Ramy, and then taking him away from you. And as well as Reagan and Arash. He goes, I took him away. I said, well, why would you take Ramy away from Chris when he looked the best he's ever looked in his career? He said, well, not at the Olympia, maybe the week after. I said, well, what's the difference? He goes, the best he ever was in his career after one time working with him. Wouldn't you think the following year he would be even better? No answer.
Yeah, well, the interesting thing is, if you look at Ramy, he was in the Olympia in 2013. He was in the Olympia in 2014, and he was in the Olympia in 2015. And all those looks, he was big, and he never even got a call-out with anyone in the top 4.
Right.
He never got a call-out in the people with the top 4. He was like miles off. 2016, that's when I worked with him. He had cross striations in his quads. People said he'll never get cross striations in his quads. His glutes and hamstrings are peeled inside out. He had a crazy Christmas tree. Of course he was flattened, prejudging. He still ended up 4th in the show. And then he went on to beat people he'd never even been compared to before.
The following week, yeah.
Really, more or less. Actually, he's been compared to Roden and Dexter. But he beat Roden and Dexter in multiple shows. And those are the guys who've been second in the Olympia the last,
Well, I just thought it was. I thought it was a ridiculous. I thought it was a ridiculous statement. And if Ramy did listen to Louie Marco, if he left you because of then Ramy might be dumber than anyone.
Well, I can one up you, Dave. I can one up you because I thought I was going to defend Louie Marco, but if Reagan listens to him, then he's dumber than everyone because Reagan is someone who I worked with from pretty much the beginning, dude. I mean, from junior Canada's to second at Arnold, Ohio, to winning the Arnold Brazil, to the first year in which he was a pro, his rookie pro year. He was fifth in his first pro show, which he should have been much higher, I'll say right on the record. He redeemed that a week later and was second at his second pro show with first place votes against Michael Lockett. And then he was sixth in Tampa. And Reagan will tell you, I never, as much confidence as Reagan has, and without a doubt, puts the work in. He puts the work in, he put the work in, he put the work in. Never in his wildest dreams did he expect to be in his first pro show, first call out.
Right.
So the idea that Louie Marco is his confidant advisor is beyond absurd, because there's no way. No one knew about Reagan Grimes.
Louie did.
Before me. How's that?
I don't know about before you, but I'm just saying Louie obviously knew enough to tell Reagan. If, like I said, if Reagan listened to him, then he's dumber than anyone.
He's dumber than anyone.
Yeah.
I was working with Reagan when he was sending me pictures when he was a kid, essentially. So the idea that, Reagan's...
Look, we know that these pro bodybuilders are fickle, and if they don't place the way they want, they're very easily influenced by outside sources as to, oh, this guy's going to have it better for you here, or you're going to do better by this guy. Sometimes you got to, and I always tell people that I work with, if they ask me about other people, I'm like, go try it out. What do you get to do? What do you get to lose? I don't care. I'm sure you do too. You don't even need the clients. You don't make no living from that. Listen, but I'm just saying, I have enough clients that I don't care if a couple people, jump ship and try some other stuff out, because that's life. I'm not like the devil. I don't have your soul, wrapped up. So do what you got to do. Explore what you got to explore, and try it out. And look, when you were working with Jay his whole career, at one point he tried something else. And he had some success with it, and it is what it is. But the bottom line is that there's a relationship there. If the relationship is good and everything's going well, usually things stay status quo. When things don't go as planned, no matter whose fault it is, it could just be the fact that someone's better than you. People, they'll look for different ways of doing things, and that's just the way it is. I doubt Ramy left you because of Louie Marco, but maybe.
Well, it doesn't matter.
One of these days we'll get Ramy on a TV show, and he'll actually answer some of these questions. There's so many questions over the years that we have yet to get answered, because Ramy doesn't interview with anyone. So.
My simple point with Ramy was, you can't, whether he works with me or not, it doesn't negate the fact that that was his best condition and his best year ever, and that was the first time he was able to get by Dexter in multiple shows and Roden in multiple shows. And it doesn't, whether Reagan's on AT&T with Louie Marco and people in Kuwait, it doesn't negate the fact that he was a teenage a junior level bodybuilder, and in 24 months gained 45 pounds and is coincidentally working with me and almost winning pro shows. Yeah. In other words, it doesn't negate those factoids, that those were the accomplishments. Proper. So I mean, and if people want to go and look for greener pastures, my middle name is not Putin. They're welcome to go try out other things. I just laugh at the idea that Louie Marco is like this confidant that, Reagan has to ask me for pictures and then call up Louie Marco and maybe ask him, what do you think?
Right. I'll tell you what I like about Louie Marco, though. Now, I've talked to him twice, because I interviewed him once and I had him, and then he interviewed me once. I like the fact that he is so opinionated in his belief system that he will argue and fight with you to the death, basically. So to me, that's a worthy adversary. I shouldn't say adversary. That's a worthy, guy that I can do some fun social media stuff with, and some fun interviews with, because he's a great debater, because he won't step down. As a matter of fact, he said he would come on Iron Debate. Okay, he wouldn't come on with Greg Valentino because Greg Valentino is not proper and he curses, and he doesn't respect John Romano, but he does respect you. So I think what we should do is we should plan an upcoming, maybe next week or the week after, an Iron Debate with. I'll get you. Maybe I'll get Fouad Abiad because he's a respected IFBB pro and he's very.
No, I work with him too. So wait a minute. Maybe Fouad speaks with Louie too on the side, like Reagan.
We'll get someone. I want to get one other person, and we'll come up with some topics. Okay, we could talk about Ramy.
Louie by de facto has to say, "I'm okay with Chris," because I've been on the record by saying you can weigh 110 pounds or you can weigh 510 pounds and be what I consider to have an expert eye in sport of bodybuilding. And I say that from firsthand experience because I worked extensively with Bob Gruskin. And as you know, Dave, short, chain smoking, mildly overweight, doesn't lift weights, never lift weights, doesn't exercise. If I was a bodybuilder and I'm Ramy or Reagan getting ready for a show and Bob said, you know what, you still got to come down or you're flat, you better, try to gain some more mass, I'd be all ears, which means you don't necessarily, you don't have to do the sport. I'm a firm believer in that. You do not have to do the sport to have give an expert opinion on it.
Right. Well, I always say expertise also is something that's garnished over years and years of doing it. I said, Louie, you've been doing this for a long time now, critiquing. I said, so you've developed an eye. You don't just get that all of a sudden, because he was asking me about Aaron Singerman, what I thought about him. I said, Aaron traveled all over the world with me, to shows and was critiquing, and he started out not knowing what he was really talking about very much, and then at the end of it, he became an expert in a sense, and people could, foo Aaron because he never really competed at a high level, but it doesn't matter. But he was at the shows, sitting in the front row, watching the judges, talking with people, and he learned what to look for, and he had a good eye. So,
listen. The flip side of
that's why he was doing analysis with us, on stuff, because he was able to talk the talk, and there's nothing wrong with that. I don't think that there's no new people that can come into the sport and critique it. I just think that it takes years of doing it. It's like being a good coach. You can read a book about taking coaches. You can take my guru course about how to be a coach, but until you start coaching people, you're never going to gain the experience to be a good coach.
So. Anyways, I will.
Do you think you're as a good a coach? Do you think you're a better coach now or a worse coach than when you first started?
I'm a great coach because I learned from my mistakes.
Right. So you can only get better. You can't get worse.
Wait a minute. The second reason I'm a great coach is I don't think I'm the best. The third reason I think I'm a great coach is because I realize a coaching relationship is only as good as your athlete. In other words, people do this. Oh, your success. Listen, sometimes I don't have success with the guy from Maine, who's trying to win the local competition. I'm helping him. He's got shitty genetics. You would think that at least I could get him second, and I can't even get him there. So, you got to be self-critical.
No, my point is
that's why I think I'm a good coach.
My point is that you were a better coach now than you were when you started because you didn't have the experience when you first started. Yeah. You might have had knowledge, and what you learned from Bob, but you really didn't have any practical experience until you started actually being a coach.
Listen, the minute an athlete asks me about, you want to know the people I hate working with? I hate working with people who do this. Well, Chris, I was reading up on the sodium pumps. Don't tell me about things. Don't tell me about those things because they don't matter. It's called the minutia. It's called the devil in the details. I was looking at the breakdown of glucose versus fructose versus galactose in the body. Dude, you're making it way too complicated.
Yeah, some people get too kooky. I don't mind people that ask questions because I like
expressing right. The point is they're expressing, quote, knowledge. And I'm just shutting it down by saying, you know what, I'll let my experience,
how I shut them down? I actually give them a scientific explanation to shut them down, which is the same outcome. It just takes me a lot more effort than you. That's all. Because I like to argue and I like to show people the mechanisms.
Well, it's like someone telling me there's the never-ending crazy details of this real estate thing they're putting together, and the details are telling me the details. I said, you come back in 2 months, in 24 months, you'll be bankrupt. Sure enough, bankrupt. It's too scientific.
By the way, speaking of real estate, Chris is coming out on New Year's Day with his family like he did last year. We're going to be spending family time together because he's out in Florida here. There's a guy across the street who's selling his house for me. I want you to go over there, like with your kids and stuff like that, and pretend you want to buy the house. I want to see the inside of the house. I've seen the outside. He's asking a ridiculous amount of money for the house. I wanted to get my mother-in-law in there, and I want to see what the inside looks like. It was supposedly custom made, but it's a much smaller house than mine.
Well, maybe I can put a tunnel between my house and your house.
My wife's like, "What are you?" Chris doesn't want to be bothered on a holiday. I said, "Are you kidding me? This is what he lives for." I said, "Going to see real estate."
No, are you kidding me? My kids would, my oldest would love to be running around looking at real estate in Miami this whole entire trip.
Yeah.
Would love it.
No, but it's good. The house across, they have like chickens. It's like a real cool looking. Like he built the house to live there, but now he wants to move to Miami. Maybe you could swap his condo for his house. You know, you'll have a house across the street from us.
I can trade him one of my condos for the house.
There you go. That's right. All right, let's get in now. This was, last week I asked our listeners out there if anyone had a top 10 list of the top 10 stories of 2017, send it over to me so I don't have to do any work. So I figured, all right, I'm going to get 1 million of these things, right? Because we have so many listeners and people. I got 2 people submitted.
Louie and Vegan Games?
No. Sammy Trudy sent me his top 10 list.
Who?
Sammy Trouty.
Oh, Sammy Trouty. Yeah. Samir Trouty.
Yeah. Sammy.
He's the Arnold. Yeah.
So he sent me his list, and so I'm going to go.
Well, you know what? Wait. Samir, because I know you're listening. So I'm not working with Samir, so now it's dawning on me. He must have got in touch with Louie, and Louie put him back in touch with his old coach in Abu Dhabi.
That's right.
Must have.
I'm sure. I'm sure of it.
So he gave you the top 10
He gave me his top 10 list. I'm going to go by his top 10
It's
list.
probably a great list.
It is.
He's got a gift of he can talk. He can talk. I will coin him the Milos of Abu Dhabi because he can talk on any topic bodybuilding related forever, without you losing interest.
Right. Well, I know he'd
probably be great to have on the show.
Yeah. No, I got to get him on because he watches all the shows and listens to all the stuff we do, and he's great. So I really I definitely got to get him on. But I thought it was a great list. Your friend Derek also did. The guy who bought you the headphones also sent in his list. He was the other guy who sent the list, but he's to be expected.
So without me, Dave, these are people I'm in contact with.
That's right.
There'd be no show. Let me take it. It's all about me.
They had a lot of crossover, but I think that
hey, let me ask
Trouty's
this to make
list
me a
is
good
better.
coach. This is I want to get the other part that makes me a great coach, even though I'm very arrogant. It's all a show. I'm very humble, actually.
Mm-hmm.
You know what made me think of that, Dave?
Right.
Is I take my kids, they're homeschooled. Someone in my building yesterday says, I want to take your family out to dinner with my family.
Mm-hmm.
So I do this. Okay, my kids are homeschooled. Tell me the business you're in. We sit in one end of the restaurant. My wife and their kids sit at the other end. And he's given his spiel, that I'm number one in whatever he does,
right?
Which is IT stuff. And you know what? He measures number one by his results.
Mm-hmm.
He's ridiculously wealthy.
Right.
But at the same time, he's instilling my kids, I'm only telling you this so that you can aspire like, okay, he's a multimillionaire, so maybe I can go into that field and be, quote, successful by that measure. But at the same time, he's ridiculously humble, which is the key to his success.
Right. Well,
you got to be humble.
You got to be humble.
And Reagan, by the way, thank you, Reagan, because I know he listens to the show as well. I do wear Reagan's shirt that Reagan gave me. It says, be humble. And when he gave it to me, I said, I can't wear that. I'm too arrogant to wear that.
Give it to Louie Marco.
We had that on video. It was so funny.
Give it to Louie Marco. He'll wear it. Oh, Louie doesn't sell shirts, he told me. He's like, I don't even sell shirts. Well, maybe you should if you get all those followers. No, but I'm looking forward to getting Louie. I know people think I should hate him, but I don't hate him. I don't. I think everyone's entitled to their opinion, and I think he's got a very strong opinion. It doesn't mean I have to agree with. And I said this to him. I said, Louie, we don't have to agree on everything. That doesn't mean we can't be civilized to each other, and we can't, interact with each other. I don't agree with a lot of what you say. I do agree with some of what you say. We had an hour-long interview that we agreed on a lot of topics that you touched on. I said, but there's a lot of topics I don't agree about. I don't agree. I think that Phil Heath should have won the Olympia. You don't, okay?
Let me. Are we recording right now?
Of course we're recording.
Okay, I'm just kidding. I was going to say, ask your wife if you guys agree on everything, and ask my wife tomorrow if we agree on everything. We agree on you know what? We're married, and so that means you disagree on half the stuff, but you pretend you as the husband that you agree on 95%, so that you can keep peace in there.
Yeah. I according to my wife, I'm probably the dumbest guy out there. So
no, that'd be Jose Raymond.
Oh, he's dumber.
No, because we were kidding once about his wife saying her picking on him, and I defended him. I said, I think you're pretty darn smart.
Yeah.
And I say that because wives, they pick on.
Yeah. I'm the dumbest guy out there, definitely. I said, thank God I have people that actually think that I'm smart, because otherwise I would think I'm a real dummy,
I know.
But I probably am. My wife's always right about everything I always say, so maybe I am a dummy.
Well,
who knows? All right, so wait a second.
I'll pull her aside tomorrow and say, I never wanted to say, but Dave, it seems like he's getting dumber. Don't bring it up. Some people get dementia. I think he's getting dumber.
Yeah, absolutely.
Don't say anything to him though.
By the way, how old are you now?
51.
Oh, you are 50. Okay, so you're 2 years older than me. Okay, I don't know why I keep forgetting that.
No bubble gut. 51.
No bubble gut. Yeah, never had one. Imagine that. Did you? I don't know if you listened to the Lee Priest Iron Rage we did early in the week. He's having his face tattoo removed again.
Yeah, you told me that. He told me he's tattoo removed.
He's having it removed, and then he might get a new one on his face. He reserves the right to. So I said, what does it feel like when you get the tattoo removed? He goes, it feels like someone's pouring hot oil on your face, basically, but it only lasts 15 minutes. I said, well, that's better than what it feels like getting the tattoo, I guess.
Yeah, sure.
The problem is you have to go back for
Why is he getting it off? He's getting it off.
He's bored. He's bored.
Yeah, makes
sense. Wants a clean canvas.
Yeah.
He got it. He was getting it removed at one point because he was dating some girl who didn't like it, and then his mom. I think he said to his mom. His mom said, "Why are you getting your tattoo removed?" She's like, "I really like it," and so he's like, "Okay, I'm going to put it back on."
Yeah.
So he put it back on.
Well, that girl, she told me also that he's out wrong as well. So.
Yeah. I heard Louie Marco is the one who told her to
get the tattoo or take it off.
To take it off, yeah. Okay. She said Louie talked the girlfriend into having Lee remove the tattoo.
So you have Samir's top 10 list.
Yeah, Samir's top 10 list. All right, hold on.
I'm sure it's very good.
Yeah, I think it's probably pretty good. It's good enough that I'm lazy enough that I didn't want to really try to think if I missed anything.
No, I can vouch for him.
All right.
I'm sure it's good.
All right, number 10. We'll go backwards because we don't want to start with the most relevant story. And I don't know if I agree with his order, but I think the stories are pretty good. All right, number 10 was David Bay, and I added Sean Ray leaving MD, which I think is a significant story.
That's a long time ago this year.
Mm-hmm.
It's significant because I said if Sean goes, then they can just call the internet provider and tell them to shut it off. As much as I like to criticize Sean Ray, talk about opinions, right? You think Louie Marco has an opinion? Sean Ray has an opinion on everything,
right? And he has some relevancy to back it up. I mean, I might not agree with him, but the guy battled it out with Dorian and Lee Haney and Ronnie.
Yeah, and if bodybuilding was on TV. Definitely one of the go-to people that those TV producers would be Sean Ray to, break down the Mr. Olympia. It wouldn't be me, you, or Louie Marco. So we're all out on that one.
Right. Because I cursed him.
So, but that was a big deal. That was a big deal that they left because then they're just down to workaholic Ron.
Yeah. It's an indicator.
People, let me say this, Dave. Because people do this. They say, what hypocrites Dave and Chris are. The difference is they're bashing Sean leaving and David Bay leaving MD, and Chris says, pull the plug on MD. That, the context to new listeners, because we're always getting new listeners and they don't know the history, is this. You change directions and you say, I'm not going to all these shows, people anymore. It's costing me a fortune. I'm not making any money. I'm subsidizing it. I know people like to listen to the play-by-play and watch the videos and watch the wrap-ups and watch the interviews. I'm not doing it anymore. Bleckman sent me a midnight because he knows I'm up at like to 2 a.m. working. He sent me the midnight, ha 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 ha, Dave's, cutting back. I'm not cutting back. While some, Flex is cutting back, you guys are cutting back. I'm full steam ahead and I'm hiring people. And then within 15 months of that, he's down to just Ron Harris. So
and he owes everyone in the industry money. Yeah.
Well, the difference is, you said I'm cutting back, and he wanted to text me, take a victory lap, and say, why cut back?
Right. That's where the why cut back hashtag came from.
So when I make fun of MD, it's in the context of making fun of Steve, who like a juvenile, is texting me at midnight.
Well, what is this? This is the year 2017. Well, we're coming to an end. We're going into 18. So figure 18. I left there in 09. So it took 9 years for MD to fall apart completely after John and I left. And it was, look, it takes sometimes, the ship is sunk already and people don't even know. I think the ship already sunk there, for the last 4 years, but they haven't had any original good content. They've been rehashing old stuff. But, the bottom line is that you have to evolve, and, as much as Louie Marco and thinks that he's the evolution of bodybuilding, it's really not the case. The case is that, and I'm not saying we're the only ones out there, because I know there's sites like Generation Iron that are doing original stuff too, but you got to do original content, and you have to have the people who know the sport. And I applaud the social media guys out there. I really do. I think that they're doing a great thing because they're providing entertainment for obviously more people than we have on, subscribe to our site. But Valentino and Romano made a good point on Iron Debate. The people who watch our content are the hardcore bodybuilding fans. They're not just the whimsical guys that want to see, oh, Kai Green kind of looks kind of cool. I don't really know who he is or his history, but he's a freak, Those are the guys that kind of, Louie Marco's got more of the casual fan. So there's much more casual fans than there are hardcore fans. But the true hardcore fans that want analysis and want, a real, I guess, in-depth
it's a different
look.
market.
Right, but I'm just saying, so of course we'll never have as many people as the social media butterfly guys do, because they're a little bit more mainstream. Because a mainstream person could watch a top 10 list that they put up of bodybuilding big guts and find it humorous. Even you don't have to be a bodybuilding fan. Look at that.
You got to keep in mind that, and I'm not comparing people who do with social media sites to what's David Pecker's number one, the National Enquirer.
Mm.
But the National Enquirer, Hitler was is still alive. JFK was abducted by aliens. People that was the pre-internet stuff. Right. The National Enquirer was the gossip and that type of entertainment pre the internet.
Mm.
And that type of magazine has always had more readers than the Wall Street Journal and New York Times combined. I'm not saying you and I by any stretch of the, that's ridiculous.
No, I know what you're saying.
But there's a core group of competitors. There's a core group of people who follow, let's say, our wrap-ups of like a show, or even this show, because there is some serious analysis on our radio shows from time to time, versus, let's say, someone who's a social media type guy. I mean, they're different audiences, is what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. It's always had a bigger audience than, New York Times or Wall Street Journal. One's a liberal newspaper, one's a very conservative newspaper. Both of them combined get outsold by National Enquirer.
Well, that's what I was trying to explain to Louie. I said, Louie, your fans are the type of fans that will go and post on social media, because he's saying you're losing credibility, you're losing subscribers. I said, Louie, I gained subscribers. Okay, my fans that are hardcore fans that listen to the show religiously for the last 10 years are not the kind of guys that go online and post. They don't care. They just listen to the stuff, and they're happy that they're getting educated, or they're being enlightened, or they're being entertained by whoever I have on. Your fans are the guys that love to post, and if they find anyone that you are having a feud with, they will go on that social media platform, and they will post and write hate stuff on there, because that's what they like to do. My fans, the guy who's been bodybuilding hardcore the last 10 years, he's not going to waste his time posting. If he likes the show, then he just likes it. He doesn't have to hit a like button. He doesn't have to say Dave's awesome, because it is what it is. That I wouldn't do that. I don't. When I watch a podcast or I watch a rep talk, I don't go in and make a comment, even if I love it, because there's no reason to. I'm like, who cares? So most people who post are people who are trying to say this show sucks, or I don't like this person, or this, whatever the case may be. So I said, you can't judge it on that. I said, you're a social media guy, meaning that, you know, your audience was garnished through YouTube. You built your reputation through them. So of course the YouTube people are going to be much more likely to post regarding what you say than what I say. We have slightly different crowds. Now, obviously, there's overlap in both crowds, but that's just the way it is. All right,
Okay,
let's not beat this to death. All right, number 9, most relevant story of 2017 in the bodybuilding world, according to Sammy Trudy. Milos, he thought the Milos special on insulin and the stories he told about Momo Benaziza and how he really died. He thought that was a relevant story. And you know what? It is. I believe it is, because I think that I never knew how Benaziza died.
He tell you that on your show or Vegan Grimes' show? Vegan Gains. Vegan Grimes, Reagan Grimes, Vegan Gains.
You're putting everyone together.
Yeah,
but Milos explained how when Benaziza had too many diuretics in him, and Milos was trying to tell the paramedics, look, you can't give this guy a shot of potassium. He needs sodium. He's on a potassium-sparing diuretic, and they didn't listen. They gave him a huge shot of potassium, and Milos believed, even though Milos is not a coroner or anything like that, or a medical examiner, he believes that that's what killed Benaziza ultimately, and it could have. It absolutely could have. And I never heard that story, and no one really ever talked about what went on backstage. Now, Flex Magazine did a whole profile on the Benaziza death, but they never talked about, because I think at that point it was taboo to talk drugs or anything like that in the magazine. They never discussed what actually happened backstage and in the hotel room with Benaziza and with the medical people that came to help him. So,
people told me.
It's like who shot JR? You know, remember on Dallas, that show Dallas?
Yeah.
You had to wait the whole season. We had to wait 20 years to find out who killed Benaziza.
People told me he had cramps for like 10 days going into the show. Like, how, can you imagine?
He was probably taking diuretics for 10 days. That's why.
Yeah, well, they had the tour, and these tours were like, you know, show after show after show after show.
Yeah. It's a shame. You know, when Milos revealed that, I was in shock because I had never heard that before, and it made sense. And you know what? I've told people that a million times before. I said, look, the worst thing you can do is, especially if you take, most people will take a potassium-sparing diuretic, like, you know, whether it be aldactone or they'll take diazide. Diazide is probably the best one. And the reason is that if you cramp, you know, you just take sodium and it counteracts it. But a lot of people don't understand how potassium and sodium work, and so they think, oh, you cramp, you eat bananas, take potassium in. Well, you know, if you're taking a potassium-sparing diuretic and you take potassium, you make the cramp worse because you're throwing the balance off more. And, you know, Milos understood that dynamic, and he was trying to explain to these paramedics who obviously had never seen a bodybuilder who would, and this wasn't in the United States, obviously, who would dehydrate themselves to the point of, you know, of virtual death. And what did they do? They gave him the death blow. They basically injected him with the same drug that they inject animals with to put them to sleep, potassium. And they put him to sleep is what they did. And it's a shame. The guy was a great guy. Everyone loved him. So that was a significant story. So and obviously just Milos in general coming back to the bodybuilding world, because now that he's back in the U.S. and he's participating in these shows, and we've gotten him on, and he's a very popular guest, obviously. So that's I think that was definitely a something I didn't even think about. How Sammy came up with all these different stories.
Because he's a little bodybuilding savant.
He is. He must. He
is a sponge. If you told him, if I said, well, you know, so and so, you know, when he won that show, I think that the Tuesday before the show, I had him eat 50 carbs from, you know, Arizona rice cakes.
Yeah. And
that was it. And then the rest was chicken boiled in, you know, water with red food number dye in it. Sammy, he would remember it. So
that's funny. All right, number 8 on the list. Melvin Anthony going to jail. How about that one? You forgot that one too, right?
How about that? I didn't even know he went to jail.
Yeah, Melvin, we talked about it on the show. Remember, Melvin got caught selling drugs or recreational drugs or something like that. When he was on drugs, and he's had a drug problem in the past several years. And unfortunately, I think his girlfriend reached out to me. And, he's on the bend. He's getting back. He should hope. I think he's supposed to get out into this coming year. And I'd love to get him on the show and hear about all his craziness. Look, people go through bad spells in their life, and you know what? It's sad, and you know what? When I see that, I really want to help them get back on their feet. Melvin obviously didn't do anything. He didn't kill anyone or anything like that. He was just obviously got involved in drugs, and he was in the wrong place at the wrong time, and it was not his first offense, and he got the book thrown at him literally. So, looking forward to Melvin getting out of jail and talking this. You know who got out of jail also this past year? Silvio Samuel is out. I don't know if he's training with Milos again. He might. You never know. You never know. Milos could put 40 pounds on him in a month. Number 7, the Rich Piana racist tapes. Remember when those came out? That was a big comment. A lot, all the social media. A lot of people liked all the analysis we did, obviously, but the social media people thought that I was talking about it too much. And I don't think so. I don't think I talked about it too much.
Well, because what that really means is race is always very uncomfortable to talk about. People don't like to hear race issues, and we think since Oprah became number one television show, and then Obama became the president, that's all behind us.
I'll tell you why it was a relevant story. It was a relevant story because Rich chose me to come all the way over to my studio and do a live interview with me to talk about those tapes. So obviously,
I didn't want to let you down. I didn't want to let you know that Rich told me that he consulted with Louie first, and Louie gave him permission to go on the show.
Well, anyway, Rich obviously was not a racist in the sense that...
Don't worry, Louie. We're going to get you on the Iron Debate, and I'm going to be nice to you. I'm going to be fair.
Yeah. Well, he likes you because you're proper. You don't curse.
I was going to say that there might be like a Muslim connection, because when Greg Valentino brought up Muslim, I thought he was I didn't.
Well, Louie brought that up in the interview too. He brought that up in the interview. Louie knew the Iron Debate better than I did. You know how when after you do a show, you kind of just flush it out of your mind.
He's like a legal analysis. He's got a legal mind, so he's probably
I didn't even remember some of the stuff we were talking about. Anyway, so Rich Piana, obviously, an ex-girlfriend of his, released these tapes where he's screaming at her and yelling the N-word. And so, this is when Rich was at the top of the bodybuilding world and social media world. I mean, he was, more popular than even Louis Marco. And we felt that if he's going to be a voice in our industry, that that he should be accountable for that. And so I got Rich in there, and he came in and told the story and apologized. And I thought it was a great moment, because it's hard for a star, someone who's like really super well known and respected, to have to say, you know what, I fucked up. I'm sorry, and he did it, in a very convincing, very compassionate, and very real way. I could tell. I knew that he was legitimately sorry. And it's funny because I have also since then many times talked to Mac Truck, the guy he almost got into the fight with at the LA Fit Expo, and Mac told me that Rich is. He goes, yeah, as much as Rich and I were arguing, Rich is not a racist. If anything, Rich is more like a black guy than I am. He said. He's like, he grew up with all black people. So that was just Rich. Once again, some people, unfortunately, Louie, and I've said this to Louie too, we all will curse at some point in life. We'll all say something we're ashamed of. We'll also all do things that we're ashamed of. God knows I've made plenty of mistakes. And anyone out there who says that they don't make mistakes is full of crap. They're hiding the most garbage in their trunk, that's for sure. So that was a great moment, I thought, when Rich came into the studios. I will agree with that. Number 6, Sergio Oliva Jr., his pro debut at the New York Pro, winning over John De La Rosa in convincing fashion. And I think that was a significant story, Chris, of 2017, because I think a lot of people felt that Sergio won the Nationals, but he just squeaked by, and that he would never be a significant pro. And I think that you and Sergio working together really brought something special to New York.
Well, Vegan Grimes gave me the tip to gave permission for him to work with me. Well, the significant story there was if you had seen, Sergio might be the biggest water buffalo in the history of the sport. If you look at pictures of him guest posing in Pittsburgh, people were like, I could feel it. They were laughing at him because he looked so terrible 2 weeks before. Mm-hmm. And I thought, I saw pictures of him like a week before that Pittsburgh, and I thought in the back of my mind, he might win New York. And then I saw pictures of him in Pittsburgh, and he looked like worse than all the guest posers. And you know what? To his credit, it didn't go to his head. People were like, telling him, like, you look way off. You're not going to be ready. What's going on? And he said, I've looked good almost like the last 3 weeks, with the exception of like the last 2 or 3 days.
Right.
And I think that was all nerves.
Yeah, he might have been nervous.
That was all nerves running, into having to be on stage with all these guys who he actually looks up to. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Dexter, Ramy, whoever else was there.
Right. Well, it was also the Olympia lineup there he was standing next to.
Yeah. So, that was a worthy story.
I agree. I thought it was significant. Number 5, the steroid bust at the, what's that gym in Miami called? And that wellness fitness that was up online. They were selling steroids. Remember, we've been talking about it for over a year about it. Like, I'm like, Chris, how the fuck are these guys getting away with selling steroids like online, like as if they're a rejuvenation clinic? Yeah,
I used to be able to see their operation from my deck.
Oh, really? Are you that close?
No, I'm just kidding.
Oh.
That was a Sarah Palin dick who used to be able to see from her porch.
She saw Russia from her porch, yeah. But that was a huge bust. I mean, probably I would probably put together with that. Although, the enhancedathlete.com, I guess you could say website, business that sells, the DNP and the SARMs and all that stuff. They were raided by the feds just recently in the last couple of weeks, and then YouTube shut down the Enhanced Athlete YouTube channel recently. Yeah. So. The feds have been active this year. Sometimes we go years and years with there's no steroid bust. Really, we don't really hear anything. And then this year, there was some significant, people getting arrested. The problem is the people get arrested are the guys that are so blatant that it's unbelievable. Like, I can't even believe they lasted that long. But you know what? The feds are pretty slick. They'll wait. In other words, you think you're getting away with it, and then you're like, you kind of become complacent. These guys probably were being watched for months and months and months and months and months.
Dave, they're building a case. They're not just like knocking at the door and then building the case. Yeah. By the time they come knock at your door, it's a slam dunk.
Right. And that's exactly what happened with that gym. Was it Iron Addicts gym? Is that the gym? I think that was the gym.
Yeah, I think that was it.
Yeah. So the bottom line, don't sell steroids online. Don't sell steroids, period, but certainly don't sell them online. These people, you can put your credit card in. I mean, come on, give me a break. I mean, how do you get out of like saying, I really wasn't selling steroids when you have credit card records of guys buying Trenbolone and testosterone on their credit card from you? I mean, it's
all nutty.
Yeah, it's nutty. Absolutely nutty. Number 4, the deaths of Dallas McCarver and Rich Piana. Maybe the most significant in the entire over the year. I think that should have been number 1, actually.
Yeah, I do too.
Sammy, you messed up the order. Maybe he said in no specific order. So.
Let's see. I didn't hear 3, 2, 1. So let's.
Yeah, but I think that was my most significant story of 2017. Those 2 deaths, because they came so close together, and they were such polarizing, significant figures. Dallas, the young guy, 340 pounds. The potential of the world on his back, and also the guy who passed out in Australia. I mean, he had a lot of big stories. He came on. Remember, he also came on RX Muscle Dallas and quit MD. Remember, he announced it. I quit MD because he didn't like what they were doing over there. So, I mean, there was a lot of Dallas McCarver stories in 2017. I mean, he really was in the headlines a lot. And Rich, of course, was between the racist tape. I can't. Was the fight this year with Mack Truck? I don't know.
I think that was before.
Was that the year before? I don't even remember. But I mean, Rich was in the headlines constantly because, I mean, his YouTube channel was with the 5%. I mean, all the shows he's at. I mean, we interviewed him a million times. So those two guys passing will be probably remembered for of all the stories that occurred this year. That story will definitely be remembered probably for the next 20 years.
Yeah.
It was so significant because Rich was such a dynamic character, and Dallas was the potential of the world. This is a guy that every young guy probably looked up to. Now people are scared shit, but in 6 months they'll forget that how he died and everything like that.
Yeah.
And it's interesting that we saw the autopsy reports released on both of these guys. I never knew that. I guess Florida has a really weird law with it because autopsy reports are public knowledge. So normally we would never have seen why that people died, what had caused the death. Unfortunately, with Rich Piana, we don't have a cause of death, and I still think that there's foul play there. But we'll see how that plays out. That's going to definitely be a movie of the year at some point. That life story. And Dallas obviously dying of a blocked coronary artery. Vegan Gains would say caused exclusively by steroids. I would tend to beg to differ and say that while steroids were a contributing factor, certainly there was a genetic component for this guy to have gotten such rapid advanced heart disease at the age that he was. And it did run in his family. There were two other members of his family that died in the early 30s. So unfortunately, Dallas didn't catch it. Hopefully these deaths will send the message that you and I have been putting out there, Chris. Get checked. Get your echocardiogram every year. Get your EKG. Go for your cardiac CT scan to see how your blood vessels in your heart are doing, your coronary arteries every 5 years. These are just small stopgap measures that you need to do. Yeah, it's funny, Chris. Someone said to me, I'm not going to mention who it is. A friend of mine said, I told him he needs to go see a doctor and get checked out. And he said, I don't have health insurance. I said, well, what is it going to cost? He's like, well, the tests might cost like $500. I said, how much do you spend on growth hormone a year? I said, well, you know what? Use 1 IU less per day. I said, and there's your money for your cardiac CT scan.
Dave, I don't really need to add to it, but I know someone once who had insurance on a building, and he asked me about it, and I said, you don't have enough. And I said, what if there's a fire? He said, well, I've never had a fire. I know you've never had a fire. I said, have you ever had a car accident? He said, yeah, I've had fender benders. I said, do you have car insurance? He said, yes. I said, can you imagine if somebody dies in a fire? If somebody dies in a fire. And you know what he had after that? He didn't even have a fire. Someone had a tiny little fire, and a little kid couldn't get out of an apartment.
Oh,
he
yeah.
died of smoke inhalation. It was a complete fluke, but he was in, and no one's going to bring that kid back, of course, and it's a tragedy to the families and all those things. But he had insurance to cover something that was non-intentional, was an accident. Mm-hmm. That was quote cheap for him in retrospect. To spend the money and get insured. So if it comes to spending the $500 and getting your health checked, it's kind of well worth it. People spend $500 on sneakers in the course of 2 years.
Right. Yeah.
You don't have to compare it to growth hormone. You can compare it to sneakers. I went to the sneaker store in Miami with my kids, and they're looking at sneakers and said, I'm not buying any of those. Getting the same jeans and shirt I've been wearing for 10 years. Those are too expensive.
Right. Yeah, you know what? The great thing about me, I don't spend any money on sneakers in stores because they never have my size because I wear a size 15. So they never have. They're always like, we'll fit you. I'm like, all right, I wear a size 15. They're like, well, maybe we won't fit you. No one carries us to 15. Anyway, let's get to on the list. Number 3, the Flex Wheeler comeback at the Classic Physique Olympia. That was a definite big story of the year, Chris. We talked about it ad infinitum. We splitting hairs. I mean, after Levrone comeback the previous year that kind of went kaput when Kevin really showed up with no leg development. Louie Marco was trying to say that I had no credibility because I said that Levrone was going to win the Olympia. I said I was making a joke out of it. I was trying to drum up some publicity. He's like, oh, give me a break. These people are. I never saw his legs. I said, how can I make a legitimate prediction if I don't know what the guy looks like? Anyway, Flex Wheeler came back and ended his career on his own, in his own terms. It's funny because Stan Efferding, who's a very close friend to Flex, took my training course, my guru course, the last one I gave, and he told me that Flex looked really good like 2 weeks out. Like, the old, you think you hear that all the
Shocking.
time.
I saw the video. He looked shocking.
Yeah, he was really good. And we saw, they released that video. And I don't know, just something went wrong with, I guess he depleted down too much, maybe to make the weight. I don't know what it was.
Sure.
And it kind of, not that he would have won the show anyway, but I think he would have looked better had he not have to deplete himself, so severely to make the weight. But once again, you said it right from the beginning. We're used to, we want to remember Flex Wheeler when he was winning Arnold Classics and placing second at the Olympia behind Ronnie. And that's not the Flex that we got. And we knew we weren't going to get that one. So people see it as a disappointment. But I think for Flex personally, it was a victory because he was able to get back on stage after all he's gone through. And this guy didn't have just a routine kidney transplant. He had a million problems with it along the way. So I think that...
But I was never critical of the comeback. I just said that I didn't want to me personally,
right,
have seen him in life as one of the greatest bodybuilders of all time, bar none. One of the top, I don't know what you put him in, but he was ridiculously phenomenal. Whatever he shows up as, from my perspective, is not how you remembered him the previous time. So,
right.
But it was an accomplishment for him. He did look great no matter what, and I know he was doing it, to make a statement, to motivate people, to encourage people, to show people that no matter if you've gone through hell or high water, you can still compete at the highest level, and I understand all those things. But I think there was a disconnect, and I think that probably, he's thinking, listening to our show, that I'm being critical of him, which is not the point. The point being is, as a purist, I'll be straight out, just like, I'd be straight out and say he's one of the greatest of all time, and no matter who comes on the scene, in 20 years, we'll probably still be looking at pictures from 93 and 90, 90, 91, 92, 93 and saying, who is that? Look at that. These guys don't even look like that now.
This is what he should have done. What he should have done, I always get, on the final word. No, what he should have done is he should have just done a photo shoot. He should have called up Per Bernal and said, look, Olympia weekend, I want to do a photo shoot with you. I'm going to be ready. I want you to do black and whites with me. We're going to go to the gym. I want to do some stuff maybe in the desert. And he should have done artistic and gym stuff. He would have looked wacky. It would have been a great final photo shoot for Flex Wheeler. And I think that people would have been like, holy shit, this guy, maybe if he would have gotten on stage, he would have won. That it would have been one of those shoots. Let people wonder, what if he did, right?
We'd see those pictures and I'd probably be like, he should compete. He'd win the classic.
Right. That's how we could have remembered him. Holy shit, Flex really did come back. And this way, there would have been no... Lavroni should have done the same thing. He still should do the same thing. I know Lavroni's committed to do the Arnold Australia. We'll see how he looks. But I think that they should schedule a photo shoot with, like I said, a Per Bernal and do a final photo shoot to get the pictures. Because Lavroni actually looks really good.
Who's going to pay for the photo shoot? Because there's no magazine.
Yeah. Maybe Elise will let me use some of my money, I'll pay you back. I'll pay you next year for a hamburger I eat this weekend. Who knows? Let Flex Magazine. They got money still. AMI. Final photo shoot. Per works for them. Contracted to shoot Lavroni. Maybe. How about this? Lavroni Wheeler together. Final photo shoot.
That'd be killer.
Yeah.
That's a great.
I'm putting it out there. I don't even want credit for it. Let Bob Chickarello take credit for it. It doesn't matter to me. As long as it gets done. I want to see the pictures.
Oh.
All right. Number 2 on the top 10 list of 2017, the split between the IFBB Pro League and the IFBB Amateur League. And for those of you who are living under a rock, Jim Mannion is the president of the IFBB Pro League. He's also the president and owner of the NPC Amateur League. In every country except the United States, the IFBB Amateur League, which is run, owned, and operated and presidented by Rafael Santoja, was the organization where you had to win your pro card, earn your pro card through to get pro status. Whereas in the United States, you need to win your pro status through the NPC. The IFBB Pro League was the pro division where Mr. Olympia, Arnold Classic has competed, the New York Pro. Okay, that was the pro division. Well, Rafael Santoja and Jim Mannion split, meaning that the IFB Amateur League went on their way, NPC went their way, but the IFBB Pro League stayed with the NPC, and now they're sanctioning shows throughout the entire world so that people can earn their IFBB Pro Card status. Now, Rafael Santoja still owns the IFBB Amateur League, and if you win in one of his shows, you will get pro status in this new pro league that he created called the IFBB Elite League. And so you're not going to get to do the Mr. Olympia. You'll do whatever shows he creates. And that's a significant story, Chris, because this was, since the inception, I guess, of the IFBB and NPC and all this stuff, it's always been this way. Ben Weider started the IFBB Pro and Amateur League. He at some point, Rafael became the president, and at some point, Rafael earned ownership of that league. Jim Mannion had started the NPC, always owned that. And he was made, after Wayne DeMilia left, he was made the president of the IFBB Pro League. Ironically, Rafael has contracted Wayne DeMilia. It's a very incestuous industry. Wayne DeMilia is going to be the head of the IFBB, they're calling it the IFBB America League here in the United States, which will enable you to compete in this IFBB Elite Pro League at some point. Yeah. So it was a big story because in the history, like I said, of the sport, we've never seen such a big split like this go down. And obviously, if you want to be Mr. Olympia and compete with the best in the world, you're gonna stick with the IFBB Pro League and the sanctioned contests that enable you to turn pro. The great thing is now, rather than them controlling the whole rest of the world, there's so many more opportunities to get IFBB Pro status now, because now it's opening up these countries that were on lockdown. Let's face it, Chris. In the 90s, the only way to get a pro card if you were in Europe, was to win the World Amateur Championships, right? Your weight class there. Yeah. Now, there's going to be so many more ways. It started with the John Enrico show, the San Marino Amateur show, and they gave out a ton of pro cards there. So it's exciting times, I think, for the rest of the world. I think we're going to see a lot better bodybuilders out there because some of the best talent is coming from overseas now.
No, you're right. You're right.
Look at this Hadi Chupin guy,
Yeah, who won't be competing at the Olympia.
Yeah, you're still convinced he's not going to be there. Okay.
I you know what? I'm just going on the idea that I said he will not be competing this weekend in Kuwait, and he didn't compete in Kuwait.
Well, let's see.
I said even if he shows up in Kuwait, he will not be there. That was just me talking totally.
Maybe Arnold Schwarzenegger's could pull some strings and get him.
Arnold and dude,
but Arnold and Trump don't get along.
You think you have it in with Louie and Louie with you? Arnold and Trump hate each other.
We'll see. Maybe he's got it. Maybe he can pull a few strings in California there for him. And let's go to the number one story, according to Sammy Trudy. He believes the movie Bigger, the story about Joe and Ben Weider that's coming out. I had Dan Solomon on the show a couple weeks ago talk about that movie that he's the co-executive producer on. Mm-hmm. That will be coming out in 2018 sometime, and it's the life story of Joe Weider. And I got to be honest, I told to Dan, I don't really know that much about Joe Weider. I know he was a Jewish guy growing up and with a lot of anti-Semitism back in the 20s, and other than that, I don't know very much about him. Other than that fact that he brought Arnold over here and and Sergio, and it's going to be a great story. I'm looking forward to it. They have a great cast. I know Sergio Oliva Jr. was in this movie playing his dad, who Dan Solomon told me it was uncanny. Like he was hitting every pose that his dad hits like he hits it. He's like, you thought you were looking at his father.
Sure.
Colin Van Moger is playing Arnold Schwarzenegger. Did you see what happened to Colin Van Moger recently at Venice Gold?
Yeah, I heard he tore his arm.
Tore his bicep. He was trying to do a tandem barbell curl with who was he doing? Oh, with Chris Bumstead. So they put 405 on the bar. And
when I saw that, I nicknamed Chris Dumstead.
Yeah, yeah. Especially Chris.
No, because Colin, one could tear his, one could get hurt, but the other one is like kind of has a career.
Yeah, and I
You know,
think
I mean,
they both have careers, really. I mean, so
Well, I know that. I know that.
dumb
But
move,
one
number
that's got
one.
Second in
Right.
the biggest show in the world.
Now, if it's a different story if Jimmy Pilecki is curling the bar with you,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
you know that Jimmy can do the whole thing by himself, but not a very smart move. Not a very smart move. So, anyway, the Joe Weider movie will be coming out in 2018. Dan Solomon will keep us updated when it's going to be released. I'm excited. I want to see it. I look. You know what? I hope it's good. I really do. I hope it's not just good I hope it's a great movie because, you know what? Joe Weider did something against all the odds. You might not agree with Joe Weider with some of the things he did, but let's face it. This guy, his parents thought he was a moron. What do you mean you're starting a magazine? It was like on a, remember those mimeograph machines they used to have in like when you were in school, when we were in elementary school?
Yeah, you used to smell the stuff and get high off.
Yeah. Yeah. He was running off a bodybuilding magazine. No one even knew what bodybuilding was. He was like, I'm going to put together a muscle magazine. His parents are like, what are you, a fucking moron? You're not going to make any money. You're not going to support a family. Guy built it into $1 billion
When
industry.
my mother needs something printed, she still calls it as a former school teacher.
Mimeograph.
I need it mimeographed.
Oh, remember carbon paper? My dad used to always type
yeah.
with carbon paper. So
Yeah.
you can make a copy because there was no copy machines. So anyway, Joe Weider took this thing, he loved his passion for bodybuilding and he turned it into a freaking multi-billion-dollar industry. He sold the Flex magazine titles and half the Olympia. What was it, for like $350 million? They said Ben Weider, when he died, I think had like $1 billion in the bank or something like that. I mean, these guys made a ton of money, but they loved what they were doing. I mean, that's the greatest. Imagine that, doing what you love doing and making $1 billion. I mean, who's better than you?
Yeah, I would have loved up doing it and just made like $950 million. I would have been just as happy as Joe.
You know what? I really wish I knew Joe better. I mean, I really didn't know Joe. I mean, I know you had a relationship with him, which was kind of cool, but I just wasn't in that. I don't know. I came too late, and I really didn't. I never got the pro card, and I wasn't really in California. So the one time I went I was invited out to the offices there. Joe wasn't there, and he was kind of getting older anyway. So it was tough. I saw him obviously at the shows and stuff like that, and I would say hello to him. And I don't think, maybe he knew me. I don't know. He would always say hello, but who knows? Probably didn't know who I was. And so it's going to be interesting to watch that movie. I think it's a big story. Once again, I think the number one story though, Sammy, was the death of Dallas and Rich Piana.
Yeah. Well, he had a great list, and we know that you're too busy with the birth of your daughter and the never-ending birth of new snakes to have put together a list of 10.
Now, I think that Derek, our friend Derek, who bought the headphones, he had his own list, and there was some crossover.
Yeah,
there was two stories I think that he brought up that were definitely worthy of the list. I think that Phil Heath tying Arnold with 7 Sandows is definitely worthy of that list. I mean, there's no doubt about it. It's not as exciting. Next year, if he ties the record of Haney and Ronnie at 8, that'll be a bigger story, I think, because that's the ultimate record right now. And then obviously, if he ever can go on to win 9, that would be crazy. But obviously, the 7 is significant, but it's not as significant as next year's possible 8 will be. And the other story that I think definitely deserves to be up there is, where's the story I was just looking at? Oh, Cedric's acceptance speech. His victory speech at the Orno Classic. I mean, that was probably the highlight of the year. It happened so early in the year, I forgot about it, but that was a truly terrific speech he gave, where he dry humped Arnold, right?
Well, he
air humped Arnold. Yeah.
More importantly, he gave, it was a feel good night because he'd been there knocking at the door for 4 years.
Mm-hmm.
Arnold had opened up his trap one time going out on the limb, and for him and saying, look, this guy, he said some extremely complimentary things about Cedric, about having deserved to win shows in which he didn't. And then, when he won, he summarized all the good that has happened to him because of the sport of bodybuilding and all the good in general that can come from bodybuilding.
Sure.
And, a lot of times, we're in the internet era, and he bitch slapped the internet.
Mm-hmm.
He told competitors to don't pay attention to the negative that's on the internet, because it waters down potential relationships that competitors can build and should build when they're competing, because at some point, in the future, they're not going to be competing anymore, and it's a part of their lives that they should enjoy.
I agree.
And Cedric, to his credit, has, over the years developed thick skin. It's, thick skin by definition, it's a Darwin type mechanism. You don't, either you do have it, which very few people do have, or you develop it over time by people who have just thrown so many arrows at you that you just have to, by definition, develop thick skin, or you're going to go nuts. So it was a great speech, and it deserves actually to be in the top 10.
I think so. It was one of the most significant things that I remember. Although, like I said, it happened so early in the year, I kind of forgot that it was part of that. But it was a great speech, and it was a great victory. I mean, really. I mean, yeah, the lineup could have been better, but Dallas was awesome at that show. People forget. They blocked it out. They kind of remember Dallas for when he passed out in Australia, but he was great at the Arnold. I mean, he was a close second behind Cedric there. It was not a runaway by any means.
Yeah.
So, all right, and that's our list. Pretty much. So thank you to Sammy Trudy, and thank you for our good friend Derek for supplementing the list. And one of his list items also was the Generation Iron movie comes out and it sucks. But the truth is, I didn't see the Generation Iron 2 movie, so I can't really comment on that. But it did come out this year. It's always hard to follow up a movie that was significant with something better, and I think that, it is what it is. Sometimes it's a one-off thing. But, all right, a lot of people are mad because I haven't been doing quote of the week. I guess the final quote of the year, it's not really a quote. People have great things happen to them. Let's use Cedric's winning the Arnold Classic as the highlight of his bodybuilding career, right? Wouldn't you say? It was a very high level. He was at a very elevated, feeling, energy level, if you might. And the problem is you can't stay there. Doesn't last, right? And people get pissed off that they can't stay at this. They think of the most exciting thing that happened in their life, and they're like, why can't I achieve that? And they chase that. And some people go out and use drugs because they want to try to get back to that elevated energy state. And the quote of the week is, I'll read the quote of the week. It's kind of like it's a excerpt from a seminar that I was reading, and I thought it was a great little bit of advice. So I'll read it for you. Don't try to recreate peak experiences. Instead, just accept them as the gift that they are, and don't beat up on yourself for not being able to stay there. Because if you stayed there, they wouldn't be peak experiences. They would be normal, everyday in time, humdrum, boring experiences. So savor the peak experiences and compliment yourself upon achieving them, and expect more of them coming, and leave everything else out of the equation. Isn't that true, Chris? We have high levels in our life. I would put the birth of my son and daughter up there on the high level, but you can't always be there, because if you were always up there, they wouldn't seem that significant, and they wouldn't be that important to you, and life would not be that exciting. So the reason why these experiences are so exciting to us is because they don't happen every day. So savor them when they do, and remember them, and look forward to the next one. But you're not going to have that. You can't chase a high all day long, or you will become a drug addict, because that's what drug addicts do. They chase the high. And what it is you have to just, when they come and they're there, and you win that show, or you win the lottery, or you have the birth of a kid, or you get the job, the dream job you've always wanted, or you graduate from medical school, whatever the case may be, whatever, floats your boat. Revel in it. Enjoy it. And I always tell people after they win a big show, I said, you better enjoy it, because it's by tomorrow, no one's going to care anymore.
Yeah.
And isn't that the truth? So, you got to just live for those days, and then the rest of the days, just put your hard work in and wait for the next big day like that.
Well, and in between, you got to appreciate the small minutia, the little things.
The journey there.
Well, things that you're not even thinking you're in a journey to. You have to appreciate and have some type of level of gratitude for even the smallest things, which also takes time, right? I mean, it's hard to appreciate small things when you have a 15-year-old kid or when you're even 22. It just, takes time.
Right. Well, enjoy the highs. Look forward to the next one. Chris Aceto, happy birthday. I'm looking forward to seeing you tomorrow, spending New Year's Day with you and your family. And for everyone else out there in our audience, have a very safe and happy New Year. We'll see you in 2018. That'll take us to the end of another episode. Remember, with Heavy Muscle Radio,
the truth hurts.
see you next year.
911